Okay.
We're ready.
Good evening, everyone. It is Wednesday, 7:01, September 21st, 2022. This is our regular meeting, which is now called to order. Let's rise for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Roll call, please.
Mayor McFadden,
Present.
Deputy Mayor Shaw,
Absent.
Trustee Brooke,
Present.
Trustee Casker,
Present.
and Trustee Shara via Zoom.
Present.
Resolved to open the public hearing on draft local law number 6 of 2022, streets and sidewalks, utility poles. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Any questions by the trustees?
Not for me.
Okay. Any questions
Oh.
from the,
I just have a, never mind, I'll save it to the end. I have a comment, but
Sure,
no question.
any questions from the audience? Any questions from the folks on Zoom? Okay, please, Chris.
Just in local law, there's a requirement for a permit to close the road last 24 hours. I just would ask that we have a procedure to make sure emergency services are alerted as that, as well as the fire department and ambulance corps know that the road will be closed. Or the road is closed, but you'll be able to get through if there's an emergency. I don't know if we have an actual procedure for that.
So is this something new to the law, John?
Well, this is part of the draft. It's actually part that I think we need to modify at some point.
I do too. Let's discuss that.
The main thrust of my request here was regarding violations, which actually starts on chapter 83, article 1, section 2.
Mhm.
We want utility companies to do work. We don't want to make it any more difficult for them to do work.
Right.
So the main thrust here was allow us to possibly penalize them when we think the work is not being done in a sufficient time. And
Such as removing telephone poles.
removing telephone poles, removing hardware stuff. And that pretty much starts on 83-11 that Brian drafted, the second page.
So I would like to strike that then. That idea that we have a road 24-hour road closure is not part of what we were thinking of doing.
Well,
I think it,
we might want to strike all of 83-4,
All of 83-4.
okay,
along with the fact that we don't have any real sidewalks formally.
yeah, I'm okay with that. I just,
Yeah.
when I was just reading the law, that's just came to
Mhm.
mind.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good point. Brian, would you call that a material change so that we should continue the public hearing?
Probably should, if we're taking out that entire section,
Okay,
but we can continue it and then adopt at the next meeting.
okay, so,
And as far as the concern with, yeah, even if there was a concern, you can adopt your procedures.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be in the law. I just,
Right,
it was a
it's
thought I had while reading it. I want to make sure I
mhm.
didn't forget that.
Any other
mention.
comments from the board?
And just to be clear, we want to delete 83.4B, that new section,
Uh-huh.
correct?
A and B.
A and B.
Mhm.
Okay, 'cause I think A might have already been in there, correct?
Well, that's a
I
good question.
don't have the version that shows both existing.
We'll give you a minute to look that up, Brian,
Yeah, I'll
because,
do that.
yeah. If it's in there and we want to take it out, that'll still fall into the continuation of the public hearing for more comments.
Yeah, we can definitely do that. Yeah, well, there was just 83.4. The language in A was there. There was no A because that was the only thing there. So
Right.
if we take that out, we'll be editing your existing law to remove what you had in there since
Right,
whenever
right.
that was enacted. So if you want to take out A and B, we can, do a revised version and then
Okay.
seek to adopt next time.
All right, so I'm going to resolve that we continue the public hearing on October 19th, 2022 at 7 PM. May I have a second, please?
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's it. I have to vote tonight, right?
Yes, you do.
Okay. Thank you, Elizabeth. Okay. I just wanted to discuss this new law that Brian and I were touching on, especially for the benefit of the other boards, the appointed boards. So Brian, do you want to just go into a brief summary of where we stand now with how we're allowed to host meetings, when votes count, who has to be there, what's allowed on Zoom, et cetera?
Sure. So up until September 13th, we've had this executive order in place from the governor that allowed you to conduct meetings remotely under the same rules as you did during COVID, which was that you could be by telephone, by video, and that was all you needed. And there was no requirement to post addresses or any of that. On September 13th, the governor announced that she was not going to continue the executive order. So now we reverted back to the new open meetings law that was enacted back in, I think, May or June. That law is entirely different. First of all, this village would have to adopt a local law if you even wanted to use that procedure. But unlike the old days where you were allowed, for example, if you were on vacation, you could say, I'm going to be at 123 Main Street. Anybody that wants to attend the meeting could be at my location, no matter where it was. They've now changed that. So now the village board would have to have at least 3 members in a location accessible to the public in order to allow any kind of remote.
And those
video
3
conference.
are the only ones that can vote.
No, somebody else, if you had the local law, could come in and participate, but any
No,
of
I
those-
meant if there's only 3 of us.
if there's only 3 of you, then
We have
yes,
a
like
quorum.
for now,
And B, we're the only ones that can
Right.
vote if there's 2 remotes.
for example, tonight, trustee Scher is on Zoom. He
Right.
can't now count towards a quorum. He can't vote. He can participate just like anybody else. You can say, we're gonna
Mhm.
have him be part of the discussion, but he wouldn't count towards the
Mhm.
quorum and he wouldn't be able to vote. And even if you enacted that law, for example, he still can't participate remotely anymore unless there's basically what they call an emergency reason or some reason that he can't be here. So the state has really limited the whole remote meeting participation, even
Right.
more strict than it was before
Right,
COVID.
and making it more difficult to find people that are willing to sit on a board, and
Yes,
maybe weekenders.
But Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, but when we pass this local law, we can put all the reasons that make it an extenuating circumstance, like
well, yeah, and look,
we're volunteers who aren't paid. So if we have a business trip, like I
agree.
think that would
The
be,
way I read the statute, for example, if you're traveling and you cannot be here,
Mhm.
that could be a reason that you would say, you're unable to be there and you can participate remotely. But
Mhm.
regardless, at least 3 of you, they don't need to be in the same place, but at least 3 of you need to be in a place where the public can attend. And so let's say tonight, for example, you'd have met that requirement because 3 of you are here, it's open to the public. And then for, say, trustee Scher, if he was away and had a reason he could not be here, he would be able to put that information out there and participate
But I
remotely.
like the idea, Chris, if we can define some of the things, like going to an executive session. All
Do
right.
you wish to proceed with that law to even authorize it? Because right now you don't have that. So you
I think we
first,
should, yeah.
you'd have to do a local law first.
All right, so what will we call that? Local law number 7 of 2022. So that I can schedule a public hearing for next month, or
Yeah.
should we just schedule a public hearing for a law based on the new meeting
It would
criteria?
basically be a local law to authorize meetings via video conference,
Okay, so resolve to pass a local law to
authorize meetings.
authorize meeting via video conference on October 19th, 2022 at 7:10. May I have a second?
second,
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, now, does this apply to the appointed boards, the bar, the
Everybody,
BZA,
every
and the
public-
planning board?
Every public body, yes.
Okay, because I know that the bar really likes having it remote because they feel they can look at the Zoom drawings from the customer and so forth, but that's the way it is.
Yeah, I mean, you can do hybrid as much as you want. Like if you were
Mhm.
all here, you can do what you're doing, this hybrid
Mhm.
meeting. But yeah, the BAR, the planning board, the virtual meeting days are over for now.
So the pandemic is over.
That's it. So says the governor.
Okay.
and the president.
All right. I'd also like to just mention that regarding the Weewa Beach and Park, we feel that we had a successful season. We're looking forward to doing it again next year. I also want to thank Jeff and the chief for holding down the fort while I was away. And Tinka was away. Tinka, unfortunately, her mother passed away last week. She'll be extending her trip in Sweden. And I'd also like to give John a special shout out for managing things on my behalf while I was on vacation. So thank you, everybody. So let's move to reports. Jeff, do you care to start?
We finished building and installing all the mailbox stands, so that's now done. We installed a new floor at the rear entrance of the police station, also repaired a bunch of windows in Denise's office that wouldn't open, I guess. We rebuilt a catch basin on Continental Road. We installed a new 12-inch drain pipe on Westlake Road. We've been working a lot on potholes the last 2 weeks before the leaves start to fall. I'd like to try to get all that done. We cut up and discarded old wooden stop logs from the old dam that were stored over at the sewer plant.
Mm-hmm.
We also cut back the fence line over at the sewer plant, which is so overgrown, you couldn't even see the fence anymore.
Also, there's that breakthrough.
Yeah, we did fix it the best we
Great.
could.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone could crawl through.
We also cut down a bunch of dead trees by the DPW. We also worked with Nelson Tree Service on a few tree removals, one on South Lake Place, one on Crow's Nest. We cleaned out, John and a couple of my guys, they cleaned out the lower shed at Weewah Park and got that all cleaned out. And
Thank you.
we pulled all the ropes in and
Thank you.
the raft. And
Mm-hmm.
they're going to be stored in there.
Mm-hmm.
We repaired a water line up here by Tuxedo Club.
Mm-hmm.
John's been working on the meter installs.
Mhm.
For the,
Thank you for not doing the repair at the Tuxedo Club on overtime. Appreciate that.
oh, no, it didn't make any sense. I mean, if it was a full-blown water main break, then we had
Mhm.
for a service line.
Right.
Didn't
Thank
make sense.
The taxpayers, thank you.
That's about it.
Well, that's a lot. Thank you very much. Chief?
Okay, so we answered 310 calls for service. We only had one criminal case, which was a fraudulent activity. 0 motor vehicle accidents. We issued 16 traffic tickets and 26 tickets, warnings for vehicle and traffic violations.
How many tickets and how many warnings?
16 tickets and 26 warnings.
Mm-hmm.
We responded to 5 automatic alarms, fire alarms, 4 intrusion alarms, 3 medical calls. We assisted the town Tuxedo Police Department twice. They assisted us. They didn't assist us at all. We didn't need it, thank God.
Mm-hmm.
We patrolled 2,800 miles and approximately 835 vehicles per day coming through the gates.
Mm-hmm. I assume that you took the people that had belonged to the Weewah Beach Club from the hamlet who had been given permission to drive through automatically through the gates. That privilege has been taken away.
Correct. When they were entered, Denise entered them as Labor Day was the last day that they could come in.
Thank you. Thank you, Denise. I see that you're here. Okay. Were you able to make your permanent new hire?
Yes,
Okay. Sure. How's that working out? When's the gentleman start?
he started already. He's on his own. He worked today, as a matter of fact.
Uh-huh.
He's on day shifts for the next 2 weeks. and,
Uh-huh.
He's been out there and introducing himself to residents.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Good.
Doing well.
Anything else? Okay. John, you have quite a bit on your plate here.
Yes, we had one stop work order during the last month. There was a house at 31 Camp Comfort Road that was purchased by a new owner. Unfortunately, there was a fair amount of work that had continued there by the prior owner that was not ever approved. So I've asked the new owner to file a permit, and I've been there twice to see what work needs to be done. Some minor demolition, a lot of just cleanup of old fencing and old stuff that's just been left around. Violation letters, 12 Pine Hill Road, there's been progress there with several of the dozen or so violations. Fairly confident most of them will be resolved in the next month or so. There was an issue there with the prior tenant. The tenant has vacated that property, which I think will help facilitate some of the repairs that are needed. We have an ongoing action regarding Genesis Real Estate Partners at 116 Tower Hill Road West.
What was that action?
That action was regarding work that required a permit, both interior and exterior work. We administered, with the assistance of the police department, a search warrant. We documented the work that had occurred over the last possibly year and a half,
Mhm.
and that's an ongoing legal case before the.
That was a situation where it was obviously they were doing work, but refused to give us access or submit plans or a permit.
We had approached the property owner at least 5 times about
Right.
submitting paperwork, and they failed to do so.
So a search order was the way we handled it.
That was the best way to document what was going on there legally and then proceed.
Thank you. So that's ongoing.
That is ongoing.
Mhm.
In 119 Laurel Road, regarding a fence that was put up without a permit. After a considerable amount of time back and forth, almost a year, the property owner has agreed to remove the fence. Which
Oh,
is-
that's progress.
He's trying to remove it
Yeah.
by the end of this month.
Mhm.
We hope he does. Active projects, the Rifkin property is going along fairly well. The Pays project, there's been some minor alterations that are needed there. I've asked the engineer for a certified letter from a welder certifying that the adjustments to the steel work are satisfactory. So we'll probably get that within a couple weeks.
Mhm.
That's the Pays property. Mr. DeHadu pulled his permit for a fairly extensive addition and renovation to the existing house on East Lake Road. And Mr. Klein, probably haven't mentioned this name in a while. Mr. Klein and his wife purchased 130 Continental Road. And they're undergoing a fairly in-depth internal renovation of the house,
Mhm.
heating, plumbing, new living area within the existing building. So
Mhm.
that's going fairly well.
So they applied for a permit.
Over a year ago.
Yeah.
Project status, Nicholson on Mountain Farm Road, footings and foundation walls completed for the pool house. The Tuxedo Club has submitted a revised plan for their parking area at the main entranceway.
Just to be clear, that does not include the employee parking.
No, it only includes the main entrance where the members park in front of the flagpole, more or less.
Thank you.
The planning board approved the site plan, and Tuxedo Club has applied to go before the Board of Architectural Review because there's approximately 5 added light fixtures.
And I know the board approved the cut.
You approved the cut, but I don't know if the cut was really necessary because they're not, the existing opening is pretty much where it is. I
Did
mean,
they leave it because the prior drawing showed it would be widened?
You know what, there's a planting area in between it, so it
Mhm.
might appear a little bit wider,
Mhm.
but there's no real material difference there.
Better safe than sorry.
Yes. And we have one application for a new house, Perna on Lookout Stable Road. The application is currently before the planning board and the BAR. There has been a number of neighbor concerns regarding the architectural design of the house, not conforming to the fabric of the community.
Mhm.
The bar has looked at it. I think the
Mhm.
bar is fairly confident that it is different, but it is permitted within the guidelines.
We have everything in place to take care of that.
Okay, and the applicant does need to answer a number of questions that our engineer has raised. We're waiting for our engineer to submit some response.
Mhm.
And it might be a few weeks before that gets approved, but it's on the proper path.
Mhm.
So,
Have we worked with the architect before?
no, new architect, new engineers.
Uh-huh.
So a number of other items at the request of the mayor. We're having internet service provided down at the sewer plant. They're actually scheduled to come tomorrow to run the wire for the internet connection. Weewat Dam, we had a little meeting down at the Weewat Dam early this week, late last week.
Regarding the inspection?
Yeah, regarding the dam inspection report and some issues we have with some of the mechanical features of the dam.
Mm,
Those issues will be in their report when they
Yeah.
submit it.
It has the potential to be problematic.
It does.
We'll see. Just back momentarily on the Wi-Fi, can we also get a price on Wi-Fi for the Weewha Beach Park?
I have one price, and
Uh-huh.
I was trying to get an alternate before I presented.
Mhm.
The initial
Yeah.
price included fiber optic, which became a little pricey.
Mm,
I was trying to get a second price from the same vendor, and
mhm.
for some reason, he's been delayed. We
Okay.
talked to it in depth on the phone about 2 weeks ago.
Was this Windsor?
No, it was a company referred to us by, what's his name? It's the company that helped us with the internet phones here at the office, and the police station.
Mhm.
He recommended somebody who would install Wi-Fi wiring and such.
Okay, I appreciate that.
No trouble. So that was the Weewha Dam. The surplus equipment that I reported to the board about 2 months ago, that's all been picked up except for, I think, 2 items. So we collected $2,214 from that.
Well done.
We do have a second list of items that need to be auctioned off. I'll try to get them posted on their
Mhm.
auction site in the next week or so. No complaints from VRI and Environmental Services. They did submit the latest monthly reports to the mayor,
Mhm.
and I think they've been posted on the website.
They are posted.
And the filming request that the board approved approximately a month ago, that will take place this weekend, this Saturday and Sunday.
Mhm.
So,
Okay, now, I do want to also, Chief, if you don't mind, we had a successful towers, Tunnel to Towers event. Do you want to comment briefly on that?
Yeah, so the participation was a little bit lower than what Mr. Burke wanted. But so Mr. Burke is a village resident, and he holds the Tunnel to Tower run for the past 3 years here to honor, remembers the fallen from 9/11. It's a success when anybody does it, but
Mhm.
it's just the numbers weren't what he wanted it to be.
Right,
But,
right.
It's definitely a good.
That's good to hear. John, do you have information on your O&R meeting with Jim and Josh?
yes, we had a meeting a little over a week ago. This is regarding updating the streetlights in the village of Tuxedo Park. In short, we can apply for O&R to replace the lights free of charge. O&R will do a percentage of the overall request that they receive from our municipality and others. It's no cost to the village. They will maintain them, they will install them. Unfortunately, the savings is not as large as you would think, but at least they're paying for the fixtures, they're paying for the install. I believe, and I know that Jim Hayes did go out and look at a few of the LED fixtures that are in the town. And I spoke to Jim earlier today. He felt that the lights looked a little too bluish. But I did remind Jim that there were at least 5 different wattage bulbs that O&R would install at our request. We don't know if the coloring is all the same or if it's different. So we have to reach out to the gentleman that's heading up that project.
So this is still an open item.
You know what, it's still an open item, but I think we have to apply soon if we want them changed free of charge.
Should we apply and then if we can work out the details, move forward? If we can't, withdraw our application?
I think we have to apply. I
Mhm.
think we do. And they're giving us the opportunity to pick what wattage we want. And I'm
Mhm.
hoping maybe the lesser wattages
Mhm.
will not look like a typical LED bulb.
Now, when you say the entire fixture, do you mean from the arm that goes from the pole to the light?
No.
Or do they just come in and change the light bulb on our existing?
You know, it was explained to us that they would just be changing the fixture at the end of the pole.
Mhm.
But based upon 1 or 2 of the samples they gave us, I don't know how that's gonna happen. I don't know if they realize how old and how primitive our arm is.
Mhm.
I think it will be that.
Well, You know, it was explained to us, it was just the fixture.
Right.
But I don't know, and he might, this gentleman's talking to
Right.
many municipalities over the
Right.
week.
Right.
He may not realize what we have.
And it's only existing ones, right? They're not talking about putting new ones.
No, just existing.
Jim, you had a comment?
But just in terms of the fixture, I did look at the fixtures that the town has on Eagle Valley Road, and they are different than what we have. So I think it is the arm.
Okay,
Mhm.
yeah, maybe.
Are you concerned at all about dark skies? And
Always.
because I mean, you can see by satellite now over Europe where they've converted to LED. It's changed what you can see from space. Josh, what do you think?
Josh couldn't make the meeting.
Oh, we couldn't make it.
Yeah,
I apologize.
Wasn't able to make it.
The only concern I had was the color.
The color, yeah.
Which is not the yellow that we have, it's a much brighter blue color.
I love the incandescent light we have now.
Yeah. But
If you can find a bulb that you're happy with,
They do make fixtures that have different colors. So,
Yeah.
I mean, they don't seem to be inclined to want to give us that choice.
mm,
But if those things that have to be replaced every once in a while, they have to buy new bulbs
Mm,
put in there, or whatever
Mhm.
that is that they put in there, so those must be available. So I think maybe at some point we could talk a little bit more to O and R about that.
maybe they have an amber kind
But
of.
in the meantime, we
I
could
think-
always put the first one or two that we get.
The color should have nothing to do with the wattage.
Hmm.
Right, the color is a function of the type of illumination, and a wattage just is how bright it gets. So standard, you go into a, lighting store and you can have daylight or soft light or
Mhm.
whatever it is. So I think the issue is determining what is the color that we want. And then the wattage will be what it is.
Mhm.
But I don't think intensity of light has anything to do with color.
So do we agree then that if there's a deadline, we'll apply, but we can always pull the plug if the team does not find a hue, tone, color that is acceptable? Is that all right with everyone?
Yeah.
Jim, Paul,
Let's do it.
Chris,
Yes.
Josh, you can say yes, but you just can't vote. All right. Now, did you want to go into the two potential grants from the state that are being offered, and if the village can apply to any of them? Is there any reason that we could, in your view?
The only one that I was thinking about is applying for a grant to replace the generator at the police department.
Is that the original Dow generator?
I believe so.
Okay, and it's old now, it's ready to go.
It's old and it's been repaired once or twice.
Yeah.
Can we put it on the auction block?
Not till we get another one.
Okay.
So,
All
I think.
right, now, do you mind putting all those reports that I did not get a chance to publish into the permanent record?
Sure.
Okay, so is there anything else you wanted to add?
I don't know if you want to do it now, but regarding I think you have it on the agenda separately, the roof at the police department.
Yeah, it's done separately,
Okay, and the air conditioning. Good,
and the air conditioning is also separately.
good, we'll do that separately.
Okay, before we conclude reports, I believe we have someone from the tree.
Christopher Gow.
Christopher, are you still there?
Yes, I'm here.
Excellent. How are you?
I'm well. Yourselves?
I'm doing great.
A quick,
Please proceed.
a short report. So we've applied for a grant for some oak tree planting, and we just heard today we've successfully received the grant. So
Congratulations.
we'll be doing that later in the fall when it's a good time to plant trees, when the trees are dormant. Then the pet parade we were going to organize on Sunday, October the 9th, after the blessing of the animals at St. Mary's at the Racetrack Nature Preserve. We've had to postpone due to scheduling conflicts, so that won't be happening this year. We had a great invasive species ID workshop with the Tuxedo Park Garden Club, which was held at the Racetrack Nature Preserve on last Saturday. We had teenagers as well as Tate Sink and Solomon Reichschott attended, and they proved very knowledgeable, and as well as the members of the Tuxedo Park Garden Club. It was very useful because we've discovered that we have kudzu, the highly invasive vine that ate the south, is present in 2 gardens in Tuxedo Park. Both homers, this is serious, both homers are aware and are actively eradicating and monitoring it, and I will keep you updated on that. The other infestation of the Japanese knotweed is at the DPW, between the DPW and the road. We are having a specialist that we pay to eradicate the knotweed at the racetrack, and it's almost eradicated, is coming in October. Would you like us to schedule him to treat the one at the DPW?
Is there a cost?
The estimate would probably be under $500.
Okay, is it something that, Brian, would we have to get competitive prices for that?
How much are we thinking?
500?
That would just be your local procurement policy, which I'm not even sure you require bids for that. I can look, kind of a low number.
I would. How about you guys? Want to get rid of that stuff over at the DPW? Paul?
Yeah, I'm agreeing.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
I have a question, Christopher. I thought that we also had Japanese knotweed at the village offices as well, or did you clear that yourself?
No, it needs a specialist to clear it. That part we would traditionally, when we've cleared the Japanese knotweed at the racetrack, we send him over to monitor that because it's a small infestation. So that we'll, the tree advisory board budget, we take care of that.
Okay.
This larger infestation at the DPW and to the west of DPW is something that is a little bit more serious. So needs to be addressed.
Thank you.
The welcoming committee includes information about the tree advisory committee, I believe. If there's anything you want to work with them on to beef it up,
Absolutely, yes. No,
specifically to point out so that when new residents come in, they're made aware of that type of weed and so forth.
Exactly. And there's one other aquatic invasive species prevention measure we'd like to put in. I'll mention it now. I think you're talking about it later. But we would like to make sure the success of the club's October regatta is not marred, and that our lake is protected from any possible introduction of new aquatic invasive species, such as Villa.
Now, have you seen the agenda? Because I did post their approach, because when we approved the regatta several meetings ago, Chris had asked if we could at least see what they had in mind, and they did list what they had in mind. It's listed on the documents. In terms of steam cleaning, they're going to steam clean around the boathouse, and their view is it's not going to trickle into the lake. I'm not sure that that's the case. We have a brand new steamer over at the DPW. And if we have to, I think I'd be comfortable diverting those to there if I'm not confident that it's going to do well at the lake.
Well, absolutely. Every boat, I mean, a tiny little thing in a little
Boats, trailers, paddles.
Yeah, exactly. It all needs to be done. And ideally, if new boats are coming in just for the day, and ideally when they exit, because the last thing we want to do is have Tuxedo famous for spreading Eurasian milfoil at other lakes or other regattas and other events. In and out.
Yeah, that makes sense too. So you're saying in and out.
Exactly. That would it's a real pain in the neck, but it is such a small, tiny, crucial link that is super important and could
Well, you don't get drinks unless you do that.
Right. And the other thing for discussion is to seek permission for the DPW to assist us at the racetrack to continue mowing the paths and to specifically to install, it'll be a day's work, to install some stone benches, stones that are on village property already that are the DPW have recognized to move into place so that we have places for people to sit at the racetrack preserve. We were investigating wooden benches, but they rot, and but the stone bench would be that would be it. It would be permanent. So
on that, we are shorthanded at the DPW, and that led me to think: don't you have donations that you could use for these types of projects rather than going to the DPW?
Well, what we have donations which are are earmarked for the removal of invasive species and the planting of native species, all these very specialized things that we have to we pay for professionals. When and it's certainly not urgent, but when it's a stone on village property, going on village property, and the village has the machinery,
right.
That if it's not a top priority, but on
the issue is that it's the taxpayers share the DPW costs, and having them do special things for your group. I have some questions about. I want to talk to the board about that tonight during the executive session.
Well, I think it's the same as a community area like the Weewa Beach Club. It's the same benefit.
Except that you're a 501c.
No, we're not. No, we're not.
You're not a 501, but you raise donations for it.
The same way as the Weewa Beach Club. Yeah, we raise donations, but we're exactly the same. We're not a 501c3. We're part of the village-owned village property. So there's no 501c3. So it's
Mhm.
the same community benefit, and it's the community that have been asking us, begging for us for stone benches, and so we.
Well, you know what they say, you send that person the bill.
Right.
If
And
they're really desperate, send them the bill.
so the resources of the DPW, we would like to, for all community areas to be shared, so that as for the We Are Beach Club, for the racetrack reserve. So I think to be equitable, I think it's not. And we've listed, it's 1 day's work. We've asked 6 weeks ago for it. So it's just 1 day's work, and then in February, it's the tradition we have to mow the racetrack. So that's a 2-day project as well. So that's and then mowing the path to keep it safe so ticks aren't present every 2 weeks. So that's what we've been doing traditionally for the last 6 years. And so that's all we're requesting, just for that to be
Right. We're understaffed. That's the reason we're discussing it now. All right, listen, I get your point. All right, and we'll talk about it.
Great. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you so much. Okay, any other reports? Okay, we're going to move on now to public comments, 2 minutes per person on the agenda items. I'll start here with those folks in the room. Well, we welcome that every month.
Yeah, I don't speak every month.
Do you mind going to the mic?
No.
Okay.
At least say your name.
Actually,
So,
my name is Audrey Perry, and I live in the village. I'm still interested in your local law number 5, which is the Community Choice Aggregation Program. And you talked about windmills, you talked about solar, you said you were going to look for solar farms, and you talked about the dams, et cetera. You didn't talk about what it was going to cost. And of course, now with our energy being very different than it was, the cost is extremely important to us. And it seems to me that if we're going to have to buy our energy from other countries, we're going to have to buy the solar and batteries. Are you all in favor of our country, which involves our village, to be energy dependent?
well, here's the thing. I think at this point, since nothing's changed since our last conversation, when you brought these same matters up.
Well, I didn't bring the same ones. I wanted locations, but this.
Oh, well,
The cost.
we don't have any locations and we don't have any costs. We have a committee that is working in conjunction with the town. And maybe you should do a sidebar with that committee because they know things I don't know. Josh?
So Mayor McFadden, I didn't hear who was talking, but
Audrey Perry.
Okay, Audrey, we're happy to have a sidebar. Jim Hayes and myself have done quite a bit of work on this. It's a complicated subject. I don't think it's ready to be brought forward in the public domain. Certainly no decisions are going to be made anytime soon. So happy to take this offline with you and Jim, and I think you'll get comfort that we're proceeding in a way that takes not only costs into account, but also the environment.
How do you have a sidebar?
Meaning you, between meetings, you can make an appointment with Jim or Josh and have a phone call or a meeting to answer these questions in detail, because frankly, they have not reported to us about these items.
Well, how do you actually feel about being dependent on buying all this from foreign countries?
Buying what from foreign countries?
Well,
Windmills
solar
and all that
panels,
stuff?
Yeah, and batteries and et cetera.
How do I feel about it?
Well, how do you vote? Are you in favor of being dependent on foreign countries? I mean, the
So
village is very much involved right now.
So I would just, sorry to interrupt, but it's not clear that the power that we're using in Tuxedo Park actually is dependent on foreign countries. I think most of our power generation in New York either comes from renewables in the form of hydroelectric, small percentage, or natural gas. And last time I checked, we're not importing natural gas into this country.
Well, not now, but that looks like the possibility of the future of buying natural gas. Right now, we do have it here, yes. But I would have a sidebar with you. You get in touch with me possibly, because you'd probably be busier than I am.
Well, it wouldn't be with me. It would be with Jim or Josh. They're running that committee. They have not reported to us yet. So I feel sadly I'm a bit of a loss to answer your questions fully and not sound like I'm trying to beat around the bush, but I really don't have the information.
Audrey, if you share your contact information with Elizabeth, she'll pass it along to me. I'll reach out to you. Happy to have the conversation.
Definitely, I will do that.
Good, thanks. Okay, any other questions from the floor? And do we have any questions from the Zoom? Chu Yen?
Yes, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I just want to talk a little bit about what you were discussing with Christopher. The Racetrack Preserve is a community facility built on village land. It's not a private club.
I understand all that. We don't need to get into a tit for tat on this.
I know.
I understand that. I'll discuss it with the board. I know you agree with Chris. I'm sure you're going to make great points about how it's a community space. I prefaced this with, we are shorthanded. That's the reason. We are shorthanded. We have 3 workers instead of the 5. So my hope was, if in this particular case, you guys wanted to chip in, it would be beneficial. One hand washes the other. We've been doing this for you for 5 or 6 years. If you did it once, would it kill you? I don't know, but I get it. We'll discuss it. We'll get back to you. All right, fair enough.
I just want to make the final point that the donations that we received are made to the village of Tuxedo Park. It's not to any 501c.
Correct, and they're only to be spent on that project.
Exactly.
It's a closed fund.
The understanding is to spend it on building and maintaining the meadow, which requires specialist knowledge and expertise. And we always thought that, for mundane work, so to speak, day-to-day maintenance, the DPW can help out. And at this point, we're asking the DPW not to do very much. And as I said in prior correspondence with you, that, we understand the DPW is short-staffed. We are not asking for it to be done now. We're asking to be fitted into their schedule. And there may well be, softer schedule in the coming winter months. That's all we're asking.
I understand exactly where you're coming from. Do you understand where I'm coming from?
I do. And I think we can work out the manpower situation in a way that will benefit the entire community.
Right. So I am the trustee liaison to this committee. However, I will defer to Jeff and John moving forward on this topic, because I don't feel like locking heads over something this.
Yeah, and I think we don't want to.
I'll defer to John and Jeff as to when they can set that schedule for you. If they feel they could do it, they have my blessing to do it. Okay.
That's brilliant. Thank you.
All right, let's move off it. Okay, thanks. All right. Any other questions from the audience? Claudio.
Hello, Mayor.
How are you?
Trustees, good. I'm good. So I can tell you're quite well too.
Thank you. Had a nice trip to Iceland.
I'm glad you did.
Yeah.
I have a silly question to ask. As a fan of dark skies, and as a fan of studying the stars with my children and looking up at the skies, did we ever discuss the option just to eliminate the street lights at night? I mean, are they really useful?
I haven't been involved in that. When you were doing all of your work on the lumens and everything and the light law under a prior mayor, did you get into that at all? And I know that you did put a lot of effort into a dark sky initiative.
Yeah, we looked at that, but unfortunately, the prior mayor was a fan of Upper Saddle River. So more light was better than less light. I'd rather that we look at the possibility of not having streetlights at night. Is that
Mhm.
would that be very shocking? We'd save
Well,
money.
I
We'd-
figure you're gonna get people that want to have, like, if there's talk of streetlights on the table, we're probably gonna get calls from a bunch of people that want a streetlight and others that don't. I'm happy. I mean, if my fellow board members agree, we can do a survey.
I think should be strictly up to the safety of the community. From that perspective, not what people want or don't want. It's in summertime when it's light till 8:30, 9 o'clock at night, probably not as important, but at 5 o'clock, when kids and people are still out walking, I think streetlights are a must.
Mm-hmm.
That's my off the cuff opinion without putting too much more thought into it.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we can put them on a timer, right? I mean, if that's the case.
I know you come home late from clubs.
I don't know if that's an option.
I would also ask if, Jeff, Chief, Mayor, if you've gotten complaints for people saying the streetlight outside my house is too bright.
In the past, we have. In the past.
And then that may be where you address it.
Denise has brought that up. She's familiar with it.
Yeah, I know. It's like when you put a speed bump in and then everyone wants a speed bump, or no one wants a speed bump because they're noisy. All right, Claudio, your point is taken. I also think Trustee Castor's point and the chief's point is taken. It'll obviously be a compromise, and we'll let Jim and John work through it. You're welcome to contact them and see what kind of progress they're making. I agree. If there could be a good compromise where it would be safe and still not completely illuminate the sky, that seems like a win-win under the circumstances. Is that acceptable to you?
Sure, that'd be great.
would-
And especially if we have the light bulbs that are more incandescent looking rather than the mercury light bulbs that they want to put up.
I agree with that. Paul?
I would suggest for efficiency of the process, that if you have a proposal you want us to consider, such as that, you draft a proposal for us to consider in a formal fashion and get comment on, right? As opposed to just discussing it, all the time. There are a lot of issues. We just talked about an issue about energy independence, and the question is your concern cost or where the energy comes from? Right? I mean, those are issues that have to be dealt with, and it's easiest, in my opinion, if we're making decisions, to make it from documents that lay out a case and we say yes or no based on a discussion of those documents rather than
Hypotheticals.
a lot of hypotheticals.
Yeah, agreed.
So I'd welcome a document from you that we'll consider.
I concur. Jim?
Yeah, in regard to that, in regard to Audrey's question too, we are going to be putting together a small committee composed of Chief, Jeff, and John to put together a climate action plan. You have the inventory that we did
Right.
of our emissions. And so from that inventory, we can look at places where emissions can be reduced. So that is something that we'll be doing this fall. If the board has, we have approval for that. Okay, do we have approval?
I'm sorry, repeat that last comment?
We will put together a committee that will design a climate action plan based on the inventory to reduce greenhouse gas emissions through the next decade.
And that would be, that's a goal of the committee or
That's right.
anyway, right?
That's right.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, that's right. And
Yeah.
so it's a long range plan. Go on for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, and now the other thing is, and I understand that you're short in DPW, but we talked on the phone about the mapping of the stormwater system. And I thought it was going to be on the agenda.
It is.
It is on the agenda.
Yes, sir.
Oh, I didn't see it.
It's
I'm sorry.
no, it's okay. I put it on 10C. Not a problem. Okay, anything else from the Zoom audience? Okay, last call.
Hello.
Yes.
Hi. My name is Michelle Shanker. I spoke at the last meeting. I had asked about if you're still planning, was just wondering if you're still planning to do the goose roundup, which is basically rounding up all the geese and killing them.
Well, it's not on today's agenda,
Oh, okay.
but as a courtesy, I will tell you that it's not on today's agenda.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, the public hearing is now closed. Let's move on to the consent agenda. Which would include my fellow trustees, adding all the written reports to the permanent record, approving minutes from August 17th regular meeting and September 8th special meeting. The clerk's request to dispose of old overhead projector, printer, and printer tray, 2 envelope sealers that are no longer used, authorize fifth stocking of the Weewall Lake, accept resignation of part-time police officer Bob Mainolfi. Thank you. Final approval for Tuxedo Club Regatta. Authorize mayor to sign and agree to O&R property rental agreement with conditions. The conditions would be a legal review. And so do I have any questions on any of those items? Who needs any further?
Make one quick comment.
Sure.
The August 17th minutes listed trustee Brooke as being absent, even though throughout it, his votes were recorded. It was a minor mistake that will be corrected.
Okay, that satisfies me. Chris, any questions?
Just on the leasing agreement with O&R,
Yes.
that's pending legal review or has been,
It
or subject to legal?
it would be with conditions, which would be legal review.
Okay.
Correct. So in other words, we'll approve it, but we have to get a legal review
Subject
first
to-
before to execute it.
Okay.
Any other questions, gentlemen?
Nope.
Okay, so resolve approving consent agenda items A through G. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. All right, let's move on to old business. With regards to A, we're not dealing with that. That's been rescheduled for next month. The chief has presented to us based on popular demand, adding some signage on the Clubhouse Road. His memo and diagram was submitted and posted online. Does anybody have any questions about that for the chief?
Just quick, chief. A recollection is that Amazon drivers seem to be the most egregious offenders, or at least that's the complaint that's
Right, that's the complaint that started it all, but that's not the complaint anymore. Now it's just
just
traffic in
everybody.
general.
Okay.
And when we post up there for enforcement, we don't see it, you know? It's always when we're not there. but
So
we
just
Get complaints.
just to know, to tell you what the chief has done so far on this, he's called the folks that at Google Maps and other places that do the GPS and changed it from 2-way to 1-way. That was very helpful. The chief has also called the vendors themselves, the managers of the vendors, Fresh Direct and Amazon and so forth, and asked them to be careful.
Advise their drivers.
Right, and you believe that these signs will help?
I do, because right now there's no sign that says one way.
Mm-hmm,
There's a sign that says do not enter on Fox Hill Road.
mm-hmm,
It's not on Clubhouse Road.
mm-hmm,
So the driver would not know that that's a one way if it's their first time going up Fox Hill Road.
mm-hmm. All right, so with that information at hand, are you comfortable with
I
that?
am, yes.
Okay, resolve to approve new signage on Clubhouse Road. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, 10C, resolve authorizing or mapping proposal for engineering services, storm system, GPS location, and GIS update support. So Jeff, John, and or Jim, do you care to respond to any questions that the trustees may have about this? Guys, this has been on the table for a year or two. Jim feels it would be good to do this fall, which is one of the reasons I was concerned about manpower, because the DPW is involved. And I would like to approve it and then give the management of this to the engineer who's making the proposal. That would be Zongel from WNS, to John for project management, Jeff for management and execution, and Jim, obviously, you're welcome to assist that team. Is that acceptable to our trustees here at the table?
Yep.
Yep.
Just one question.
Please.
So in the proposal, Jim, I assume you haven't had a chance to see it. You did? Okay. So it talks about a specific.
It's posted and it's the same.
So I think they're proposing 3 days of work of actually doing the mapping, and they designate an area, but I don't think it actually said what the area was. You're looking for everything that would flow into the water, right? The 3 lakes.
Map the connection between the catch basins and the pipes that feed into the lake.
Okay, so
We
wouldn't,
simply know what catch basins are going into the lake and what pipes are leaking to the lake.
okay, so it wouldn't do every storm drain
That
in the
would be the
village,
goal.
just, or do you think stuff on the, near the,
Not that would go into the Ramapo.
okay, right.
Yeah,
Okay.
the whole system. And
Well,
Except for the,
why?
No, it's not the whole system. It's the system that goes into the lakes.
everything.
It's
Everything,
not every stormwater.
most
right.
everything does.
Almost
Okay.
everything does go,
Okay.
like even the Dows will go.
Okay,
Well, the Dows might go actually through the racetrack, right? But, and there's also identification of units that need to be repaired and replaced.
okay.
So there's a maintenance component to it as well, in terms of these catch basins, which are, many are old, and some we're not even sure where they are.
Right.
And now, for example, on the main lake, at the old Dr. Miller property, there was cleared vegetation next to the boathouse that's on the water to the
Yeah.
right of it. And it's exposed a drain this big, which needs a cap for animal prevention, et cetera. But it's, I mean, I didn't know it was there. It's huge. So you know what I talked about, Jim? Have you seen it when you've been out on the water? Oh, yeah, it's quite big. Have you seen it, John?
Okay.
Yeah, so I think it does include using GIS to document all the data, update all of our maps. And then that would in fact help us to apply for grants and other things too, if we needed to. But I do believe it's anything that ends up going into any of the 3 bodies of water.
And then, so you have, for example, like up on Continental Road where where the outlet is, where the dog got trapped,
Right.
then flows into a stream that goes into the Weewa. So that would all be mapped, so you know the water goes,
I think it's much more the piping.
okay,
The catch basins and pipes that lead to pipes that go into the lake, not streams.
okay. Okay, that's fine. I'm just trying to get.
Yeah,
a
no,
clear
and
picture.
we should have follow-up conversations about it as it's an ongoing project. And I'm sure we will. We'll get some progress reports by everybody to find out, if there's anything we need to add or subtract. Okay, good. Thank you. Good questions. Okay, so resolve authorizing mapping proposal for engineering services, storm system, GPS location, and GIS update support. May I have a second?
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye, very good. New biz. We have openings on the planning board and the bar. And we announced that on the website, and we received up to 5 applicants. All of those, 4 of the 5 have not been reviewed at this point in time. One has, and has been recommended by the planning board chair, Joanne Hanson. And the only thing that's up in the air now is what term that person would fit into if that person is approved. I recommend the person. She's an attorney. Her resume, cover letter, and bio are all posted and were distributed to the board several days ago. Does anyone have any questions about the appointment of the planning board person? And her name is, pardon me?
Bronwyn Roundtree.
Thank you, Joanne. Bradwin Roundtree. Okay, so any questions?
So the question is, does she will be appointed as a replacement for someone who has resigned. So they'll fill up that person's term. as opposed to a new appointment with a full term?
That is the $100,000 question. We're ironing that out. So,
It should always be to fill out the remainder of a term. The terms never change.
right.
The people
There's
change.
been an empty term though for quite some time. I don't know if it's starting
You can lay
over.
out your terms for the next 100 years. They never change. It's
Okay.
people, so if you appoint somebody, they're filling
Mhm.
somebody's term.
So we have a choice of, they're going to fill one of two people's terms.
Yeah.
But we don't know who yet.
Yeah.
Okay. We don't know if one's 1 year or 4 years left.
Right.
And so we have to make that decision with Joanne and the new applicant. So what I did, Brian, is I said, we'll make the appointment tonight with conditions, must set the term. So in other words, the board would authorize Joanne and I to appoint Brandon. However, Joanne and I would determine which term she would go into.
Each will be vacant term to be determined.
Correct.
Right, and you should make sure also.
To a vacant term to be determined. Okay.
Ideally, your term should be staggered so that one ends
Right.
year. So as long as you have that, those terms can be laid out forever. And then whatever term you put them in, this person will fill out that term and then they can be reappointed.
Great. And we may come back to you for some more advice on that. Okay. So
So we're authorizing you and Joanne to add this person
into a term of choice
into a term of choice.
to be determined
And we have additional candidates
that we have not
that
reviewed
we have
yet.
not reviewed yet and are likely to pick that person at a subsequent meeting.
Correct. There's 2 bar positions,
I would make
1 more
that-
planning
I
board
would
position.
make that motion.
Yeah.
Motion?
To pick at a subsequent meeting?
No.
Just,
This one
okay,
now,
yeah, I
we have-
agree. Are you comfortable doing it too? Okay. Resolve to make an appointment to the planning board to a vacant term to be determined for, and let's get the name exactly right, please. Let's spell it.
BRONWYN,
BRO.
N like Nancy,
Mhm.
WYN. His last name is Rowantree, ROAN like Nancy, TREE.
Thank you. Accepted. May I have a second, please?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Joanne, you and I will get together. We'll figure out what term to put her in.
Thank you very
Okay.
much.
You're welcome. Now, she sat in on a meeting last week, right?
Yes, and unfortunately, one of our planning board members had to resign due to illness. So this enables us to maintain a quorum for the applications that are already in progress.
Will you have a 3-person or 4-person quorum now?
We will now have 4 people. So
Right.
for example, I'm going to be traveling at the end of October. So this enables us to
Right.
maintain
Right. Who's your deputy chair?
that. Jay Reichgott.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Thank you very much, Joanne. All
Thank
right,
you
moving
all.
on. You're welcome. Okay, now we have the Delanner application for a driveway. I've included online the building permit application, images, time-stamped images taken by John, and a letter from Ms. Delanner's attorney. I support the project. And in order to move forward, the board has to approve the road cut. That's why we're here. However, we did not want the applicant to have to go through the process of the bar, the planning board, or the BZA, only to be rejected by us. So what we're doing in this case is preemptively making an approval of the cut. Now, if the cut changes, they can come back to us, but otherwise, the only thing that this approval will be subject to are conditions set by the planning board, bar, or BZA. Is that acceptable to you guys? Sophia, you understand what I'm saying?
David. Yes, I do, David. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Thank you so
Okay,
much.
good. Yeah, so, and this is John's recommendation. This will prevent you from having to go into a circular firing squad.
I am
All
very,
right, so,
I am very, very grateful.
Our pleasure. I know you've had to deal with a lot of stuff on this. Okay, resolved to approving the linear application for a new driveway with conditions set by the BZA, PB, or bar approval as determined and communicated to the Board of Trustees by John Ledwith. May I have a second?
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed.
Thank you
Okay,
so
next
much,
we have,
everyone.
you're welcome. Next, we have the Sung Schmidberger dock application. Today we received a revised version, which is meets the village code. And so do any of the trustees have any questions about that?
Well, I think one of the issues we have before us, which we talked at the last meeting, is whether we have this condition, which is dock size and boat size don't match. So it seems rational that dock sizes be allowed to be the same size as the boats that are allowed on the lake. That requires a legal change, which we talked about last month. And I think two things. First of all, we should put that legal change up for discussion for the next meeting. And number two, it should be committed to Schmidberger that is under consideration. And even though they've submitted a revision, understand that they may be allowed to build a larger dock, depending on what happens in the outcome of this.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
Okay.
And it should also be made clear to them that it could take 1 month or 2 months or 3 months.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the other thing I think in the drafting of the law, I think it's critical that we don't have to change the law every time we have something that's in the power of the trustees to define. So if we said, for example, that the allowable boat size is 22 feet, but we can basically say the allowable boat size becomes the allowable dock size. So
We
don't
may have to make a local law to actually allow that.
I don't understand what it takes.
Yeah.
But all I'm saying is this is an issue that should be in the discretion of the trustees rather than having to go rewrite a law. I think.
So you could, as the mayor said, you'd need at least the initial local law to give you the authority. But for example, you could say that annually the village board shall review the, lake regulations or dock regulations and may establish, dimensions and other things on an annual basis if you wanted to do it by resolution, as long as it's not in zoning. If it's in zoning, it really has to be in the code as a bulk requirement. I don't think your boat regulations are within. zoning.
Right. So can we then schedule a public hearing on a law to be drafted on this subject for next month?
Yeah, as long as you can give us more or less in your layman's terms what it is
Right.
you want to do, then
Right.
we can.
Yeah.
Right, we have a couple of things that we talked about last time, but we just haven't gotten it done.
Yeah, we just need to have that law to
Mhm.
you and the public about 8 days before that.
Right. Okay, so we would like to resolve to schedule a public hearing on draft local law 8 at 7:20, October 19th, 2022, regarding revising the lake laws related to dock size, which would give the sitting trustees, the ability to make revisions to that dock size by resolution. Language to be determined and submitted by the attorney. May I have a second?
Mayor, just before.
Yes,
you
sir.
Make that motion,
Yeah.
I think you said 7:20. Can we just state 7 o'clock or assume thereafter?
Yeah, no, you're right. In fact, 7, and let's go back. I already did one at 7:10. Okay, so scratch the 7:10 on local law 7, and let's make that at 7 as well.
Yeah, we usually put in the notice at 7 or assume
Right.
thereafter.
Notice how I'm doing that now with the continuation. Thank you for that time-saving tip. Okay, may I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, you guys are killing me for October. Oh, by the way, before we carry on, there's been a lot of questions about when we want to celebrate Halloween. Okay, I don't think it falls on Saturday. I think it falls
Sunday.
this year. Everybody had to throw out a calendar.
I think it's Sun-
It's on a Monday. I've had a lot of requests for it on a Saturday, which we've done in the past. And does anybody oppose that? And this relates to you, chief, and getting personnel and everything. Yeah, the weekenders leave Friday early evening. So Saturday is the best day. And that's been the tradition. Does anybody have an objection to that?
I don't
Chris,
really have an objection. I don't really have a thought on the whole
take a
thing,
minute and have a
so
thought.
I don't object.
Okay. Do you have a preference?
I mean, I think it turns into 2 Halloweens.
Oh, well, there are 2 Halloweens. There's the ones that the kids get to do in the city that are on weekends, and they'll do it on Monday, because that's what happened in the city. But they'll get to do a community one here with all of their friends from the community on Saturday. And I don't think there'll be anything on Monday in Tuxedo based on past experience. So I don't know if that's 2. I think if we call it for Saturday, no one's going to bother putting out candy on Monday. That's been my experience.
Oh, in the village.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Right. And then if you're a weekender, yeah, you're going to your kids are going to get to spend the time with their friends here at Tuxedo. And then when they move back to the city, they're going to probably do their own parties on Halloween on Monday.
Okay.
Is that all right? All right.
Sure.
All right. So resolve that Tuxedo Park will formally celebrate Halloween on Saturday, October 29th, beginning at what time's good for you, Chief? 5 o'clock? 5 o'clock.
Kind of want the day of that.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Okay. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 He bites the bullet for the team.
October.
Okay. All right. So thank you for that, a little deviation there. All right. So we are now at, we did the Schmitzberger. We are at the, we have noticed, John, the chief, everybody knows that the cedar roof on the lodge is falling apart. So we went out and got bids.
Wait, I'm sorry, did we do a vote for Schmidtberger?
Yes.
Was I
Oh,
just asleep?
Schmidtberger? Oh, no, you're right.
I think you were gonna do local law.
Right, that's what I thought.
No, but no, we're gonna, no, I know what we're gonna do. We're gonna approve.
The proposal made was that they have submitted an application that is acceptable.
Yes, we'll approve
We
it.
will, and we are approving that, but simultaneously informing them
Right.
that we are
The courtesy call.
considering a change in the law that would permit them to build what they originally projected.
Actual, well, that remains to be seen. Did you see their original?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. All right. So that's fine with me.
Yeah.
All right. So
So all they need to know is that they can go.
they can start or wait
It's late.
or modify.
It's late in this year.
Right.
I
Agreed.
I think we just inform them that there will be
Makes
new
sense.
rules
Absolutely.
that they may wish to
Wait,
wait and. see what they
understand.
look like.
Yeah, no, I agree. Okay. Thank you, John. John will notify them. All right. So resolve to approve the Sung Schmidtberger dock application. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, trustee Castor, for keeping me on track. All right, now we have the new cedar roof and copper gutter leaders for the lodge. We have 4 bids, correct?
Right.
Those bids are listed on the posted information. What is your recommendation?
Recommendation is to go with Gonzalez Home Professionals. They've done some work in the village recently. It seems to be adequate. I did reach out to him today to see if they were still available, and they are.
Are they the cheapest?
Are they the cheapest? They are second down.
Because I know that Tinka thought that the $13,000 difference might not be worth it. We are obliged to pick the lowest qualified bid. That's a pretty big spread. Is there a reason we do not want to go with the cheapest?
They don't have any experience in the village. They already revised their quote once from 54,800 to 77,500.
Mm-hmm.
And not having any direct experience with them, I'm
Mm-hmm.
a little concerned.
Do you feel that's satisfactory to go with the second highest bidder under these circumstances?
I mean, I haven't looked at these bids because I saw them on the agenda for the first time, but generally, if you have a reason, something that like experience, in other words, sometimes it depends on what you put out.
Mm-hmm.
So if you required some kind of experience or that was part of.
It's all apples and apples. I've seen all the
Yeah, but
bids.
based on experience, the recommendation is to go with the second highest.
Correct.
And I would endorse
Second
that.
lowest.
Okay. And the name?
Gonzalez Home Professionals. The lodge.
Oh, it's the building at the entrance gate, the building on the left entering. And if you look at that, you can see the name, the lodge and the keep. You know what? I'm willing to give you a tour. All right. So resolve to award the bid for the new cedar roof and copper gutters and leaders for the lodge to Gonzalez Home Professionals. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Air conditioning. How many quotes do we have? 3?
We received 3 quotes,
Uh-huh.
range 14,000, 14,100, and 16,143, which I believe has been revised to almost 17,000.
Okay. Who do you recommend?
No, I recommend Northern Plumbing. There's a second lowest only by $100, and they're not requiring us to install or pay for any scaffold.
Yeah, I noticed that was interesting. That's a lot of extra. Okay.
Well, with one caveat, none of the companies will do the primary electric work.
Mhm.
So we do need to get estimates on having an electrician do the electrical work.
All right. So we can do that.
So if you give me a month's time, I'll try to get 3 estimates for
We
electrician.
could always call a special meeting if we have to.
I think we have time if we get this approved in October or no.
Can we authorize John to pick the lowest bidder, the lowest electrical bidder, without having to present?
Any idea of what the cost is?
I have no idea what the cost will be.
It's gonna be-
And I'd rather, given the time of the year,
All right,
I'd
so-
rather wait till October.
Okay, fine.
Do it in one shot.
And just so everyone knows, there is no air conditioning in the police headquarters in the lodge. It's miserable. It's been the worst summer in the world. I know all the trustees supported. I was against it,
2 years ago.
but they've convinced me you should have air conditioning. Okay. Is this include equipment?
Yes, this is equipment and installation with the exception of electrical work.
We might be able to save something on equipment like we did with the booth.
I don't know.
Okay, all right.
Can you just say which budget code we want to take it out of?
Well, I'll get to that, yeah, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Okay. Resolve to award the bid for new air conditioning for the lodge to Northern Plumbing and Heating. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Pass.
Aye.
All right, so one of the things that I asked.
Mayor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye, what?
She didn't hear your vote.
Oh, aye. Yes. Okay, so my question, when we were looking at these was, where are we gonna find this dough? Is this a loan? Are we pulling it? Are we doing a budget transfer? What did you guys have in mind? Does it come out of the police budget, our budget? What's happening?
There's been some discussions about taking it out of the paving budget since asphalt rates are very high. And we may not need to pave all the roads that might have been a possibility.
Interesting. Jeff, how do you feel about that?
At this point, you're not paving any roads. It's already the end of September, so.
We were waiting for 2 more quotes to be,
We got 2, I think. We got 2.
2 more quotes for the
We got
blacktopping?
a total of 2. We got.
Total of 2.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's one possibility. Do we have any other possibilities? Do you have any money in maintenance in your budget?
My building maintenance budget is 5,000, I believe.
Okay, and that's probably going for the floor tiles and all that. And so Elizabeth, do you have any creative ideas on where this might come from? Okay, so they've both been passed. And we will then work out where this money comes from. If in fact we're going to take it from blacktopping, we'll do a budget transfer
Right,
from one fund to the other next month.
right.
And by then we'll know the electrical.
Just so you know, there's 200,000 in blacktop and Jeff needs.
Yeah,
some-
200,000 minus the 20 grand though that he needs for patching.
Correct.
So it's really 180.
Well, I'm
There
not
was some
even
other
sure how
stuff.
much we've spent in that category so far this year,
Mm-hmm.
but it'll be more than 20, but
Okay.
what is the total of what you want? what you want
Well,
there?
it'd be
It looks like between
75,
both.
under
projects,
100.
It'll be around 100.
Okay.
Okay, good. Thanks, guys. Now, we also have to replace a water pipe in Tuxedo along Mountain Road. I believe it's lead.
It's transite pipe, it's asbestos line.
What am I thinking? Asbestos, of course. And it's been a major problem. It's completely bursting all the time. A lot of complaints. So we had the engineer write up a proposal for us. He recommends, and John recommends, we go with option 2. The document is posted online. Do the trustees have any questions about approving option 2?
I do not.
Done for me.
Okay. Resolve to approve option 2 of village water pipe replacement in Tuxedo on Mountain Road. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. We've been informed that we need to pass a resolution approving certain post-issuance compliance policies. The details are posted online. Do the trustees have any questions about it?
Nope.
No.
Resolve approving certain post-insurance, issuance or insurance? I wrote issuance, but is it insurance?
I thought it was issuance.
Compliance policies. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We have an additional garage unit, fairly large, that we could add to the inventory and put on the list for the current waiting list. Rates have been discussed from $250 to $350 per month. John, Jeff, Elizabeth, do you think we need to maintain that for our own purposes as it has been in the past? Or do you think we should make it available to the public?
Is this the garage in the corner that we're
Correct.
talking about? There's only one issue with that garage, that when we do have heavy rains, the far left-hand side, there is some puddling or ponding of water.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why many years ago, the person understood that. They still paid the rent, everything was fine.
Mhm.
But after that, it's been a number
We
of
call
years,
that as is.
Yes.
And I'll put that in here, as
if you
is.
rent it as is, for double the price or any other garage.
Mhm. Right,
That's it.
okay,
That's it.
as is. With
water.
setting the rate. All right, so resolve approving adding one additional garage unit as is to the village rental inventory with conditions, which would be rate, which I will leave to Elizabeth and John. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Now, there is a art fair taking place in the town, and then everyone exhibits their art, and they do scenery, still lifes, that kind of thing. And they've asked if they can pick a couple sites and maybe give it out by lottery to some of the artists. I have no problem with that at all, but of course we have rules regarding that. So if it were to involve a specific house, they would need approval. So what I recommend is authorizing it with conditions of site approval.
I'm good with that.
Okay. Resolve authorizing artists to paint inside the park for a special event with conditions, including site approval as determined by John. May I have a second?
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
I understand nothing. But it's fine.
All right, we have New Windsor IT company that we've used now for 5 or 6 years is raising their rates and potentially changing some terms. Has anyone had a chance to review that? I did ask Elizabeth to give us a comparison on the rates, but I really didn't check into the terms. There's some pretty heavy terms in there, like they want to charge you the minute they leave New Windsor. Things like
But
that.
that's what it was before, right? John, do you remember?
I don't remember the specifics of the
I-
contract.
They don't come here much anyway, to be honest.
Correct.
They come to us.
Yeah, I would prefer to table it. Can we do a little more research?
I agree.
And I would like to set, okay, thanks. And I'd like to send it to the attorney for legal advice, if that's okay with everybody. So that's
Yeah.
tabled. And do we have any budget transfers?
No.
We would like to thank everyone for joining us. We're going to leave the public meeting temporarily to go into an executive session, which unfortunately the public does not participate in. So thanks for coming. If you intend on staying, we look forward to speaking with you when we return. Resolve to leave the public meeting and enter executive session to discuss legal matters and a particular village employee. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so let's put everybody into a,
I'm not a co-host. If you want to do that, I can.
Yeah, I'll make it-
thank you, folks. All right, good luck at your meet, your sidebar. Yeah,
And I did notice that the taxes went down. We didn't know you were investing.
Thank you.
That there are people that do, maybe they don't even look at it.
right, thank you. Yeah, and that was a big effort. Not by me, by all of us. All right, thank you. Glad that's on the record. All right. Okay, I guess for this legal matter, John. Okay.
Still putting people in the room.
Okay.
I'm gonna
Thank you
stop.
so much.